Jeb Bush. Totally changing topics here, and later I'm going to be talking about Russ Feingold running, which I know you're excited about. We can talk about that in the future. And
I was going to say Russ Feingold, awesome. Okay, go ahead.
And we can also talk in the future date about the idea of George Pataki running, because he hasn't quite declared.
Oh, please, can we talk about that? Because that's hilarious.
Yes, we will in the future.
That's going to make Carly Fiorina look like a heavyweight.
All right, but first, what I want to do is play you this clip, and this is coming from Fox News, okay? And they have actually assembled, and I've got this clip, they have actually assembled the numerous positions Jeb Bush has taken over the past couple of days. Now, you may not be able to hear this, but I'm going to play it, and it's basically Jeb. I will give you the play-by-play after I play it. It's just about 15 seconds long, but it's Jeb basically. I mean, when people talk about flounder, this is what flounder is.
I would have, and so would have Hillary Clinton, just to remind everybody, and so would have almost everybody that was confronted with the intelligence they got.
Yeah, I don't know what that decision would have been. That's a hypothetical, but the simple fact is mistakes were made.
Knowing what we know now, what would you have done? I would have not engaged. I would not have gone into Iraq.
Well, Jeb Bush's evolving answers this week to the question, knowing what we do today, would you still have invaded Iraq?
So there you have it. Jeb Bush's evolving question, says Chris Wallace, the evolving answers to the question of knowing what we know today, would you still have invaded Iraq? He said, I would have. Then he said, I didn't understand the question. I won't answer
back then
because it's a hypothetical. And then he said, now I would not have.
I get them when they equate all this stuff too. Let's get this out there honestly. By two people who have served us back to back as Secretary of State and have run for president, Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, was that a very bad vote in 2003? Yes, it was. It doesn't mean that that was tantamount to sending our troops in. And I don't believe under similar circumstances that any Democrat would have sat there and sent our troops into a war in Iraq and have taken their eye off the ball in Afghanistan and what we needed to be doing when it came to Al-Qaeda. That's part one. Part two is watching these guys, do that stuff. Of course, they could try to bring Hillary into it, or anybody, any Democrat for that matter, they can. But watching them sit there and because Marco Rubio's done the same thing. He's not getting hit for it right now, but he switched his position on this. He said a few months ago that he would have gone in still. Now he wouldn't. And they all act like, Judith Miller's book had some truth to it, even though she was taken apart by Jon Stewart, among others. And that, this was something of, it wasn't the Bush administration. It wasn't. We know all this by now. We know curveball, and we know aluminum tubes, and we know about the mushroom cloud and all the propaganda that Condi did and that the administration did. Sadly, even to a certain degree, Colin Powell did. But I mean, Cheney, Wolfowitz, this is like their full-time thing. They stovepiped information. They took what they wanted. They disregarded the rest. These guys wanted a war. They were all on PNAC, which, by the way, Jeb Bush signed.
Project New American Century, right?
Yes, they wanted this for a long time. And as Wolfowitz said, as Richard Clarke said in his book very, very infamously, there are no good targets, or was it Rumsfeld? There's no good targets to hit in Afghanistan, so we should bomb Iraq. Well, Richard Clarke standing there sort of with his jaw dropping. I mean, they wanted this. They wanted it for a long time for a variety of reasons. Oil, making certain elements of the Likud in Israel happy, and a variety of other things. And so, this was a tragedy and a disaster, and they brought it about because they wanted it. There's no intelligence problem here. There's no, Hillary voted for it. No, she voted to give the president the jurisdiction, well, jurisdiction is not the right word, but the ability that Congress approved to go in. They did this. They broke it. All right. And so that's where people need to keep their eye on the ball. And I hope Hillary and her people develop a good answer, along the lines of what I just said, because whatever you want to say about that vote, and I do think it was a bad vote again, it was not the same thing as what these jackasses
Right,
did.
of course. And look, Krugman had a good piece today reminding people that, Jeb Bush's advisors include Paul Wolfowitz, who said, well, weapons mass destruction, one thing we could all agree on, and that's why we went in. And
he's the one who said that
George Bush
said that the cost was going to be nothing and we get flowers thrown at us.
I mean, so let's be honest here. And so Jeb Bush, the most interesting thing about this is just like how incompetent of a candidate do you have to be sort of thrown off your game by getting what would probably be the most obvious question possible.
Yeah,
right?
How are you not ready for this? How do you screw that up? How is it that you have not been prepared? You know, I mean,
when you sit down with your
advisors,
advisors,
your brother stood
2
for,
years ago, when you sit down with your advisors, your closest advisors, the two people that you would talk to first about this, say like, hey, should I even contemplate this? The first thing that seems to me that you would be sitting around as you're smoking your cigars in your in your study,
drinking your very expensive brandy,
is how would I answer Iraq? Like that seems to me to be the first question that
you think to yourself, look, your name is Bush. Inevitably, whether you want to get removed from it or not, you're going to be asked about it. So what are the 2 or 3 things you're going to probably be asked? You're probably going to get a Katrina question at some point.
Yep.
Let's let them put it out there so we can help Jeb to prepare. You know what else, Jeb? You're probably going to get a question about the economy and what you would have done to stave off when the economy crashed in 2008 when your brother was in office. I mean, these are some obvious questions, I would think. All right, Iraq and the economy being the 2 biggest ones, but yeah, there'll be a Katrina one. There'll probably be a Social Security one, considering your brother tried to privatize that. These are things you might want to prepare for, Jeb.
Well,
just a thought.
I'm happy to see that he hasn't.